Okay, today I thought we'd play with and I'd show you the insides to the electric robot, and also sold as Electric Robot and Son. This was be about 1955. Robert the Robot, a skirted robot, came out first, then the Electric Robot and Son. Then of course Japan started copying all kinds of skirted robots, but they started here in America. And basically, it's a very large robot toy for him to play with, and has a chest drawer where you could hide things. We'll leave the one with the sun. Let me show you this first. This is a very important picture to have. There's going to be 2 D-cell batteries in there. Back in the 50s, carbon batteries didn't last long. So they put 2 batteries in there in the same orientation. They're in parallel. So the robot's running on 1.5 volts, but is getting twice the current, so the batteries would last a little bit longer. And they need that because not only were they running a motor to move it, running 2 light bulbs in the eyes, and an electric buzzer in the back. So they were running a whole lot of stuff off the 2 batteries for 1955. The main thing though is almost all toys that you get these days, if you have a place for 2 batteries, you always put one battery on one way and put the other battery in the other way. And if you do that on this one and close the door, you're going to dead short the 2 batteries out, and they're going to get real hot and probably leak and smoke and cause all kinds of great problems. So I'm showing you the picture in the box so you can understand they're in parallel, not series. But here it lists all the great features that it has. You've got an adjustable antenna on the back of the head. There was a knob, and they had a piece of rubber on the knob, which, since this is 1924, has since gone hard and no longer works. But basically that rubber rubbed on a metal antenna, just a straight piece of metal bent to look like an antenna. So as you would turn the knob, it would raise the antenna up. Got the light up eyes. You can adjust the steering on it to make it go left or go right by moving a little lever on the base. We'll look at that in a second. Has a buzzer for sending Morse code. That was a real big thing for kids to learn to do back in the 50s. Got your Lewis marked. We already looked at this side. Here we go. Here you can see the way to adjust the antenna knobs. Morse code button. You've got your forward and reverse switch. You've got a main power switch, and you've got the battery door, and there's the lever for setting the steering. And there they're showing you there's 2 knobs so that you can actually make the arms move. See up here it shows there's 2 knobs on either shoulder, so you can make the arms swing. So a lot of features. And I guess it would be the first actual battery-operated skirted robot. Now, Robert the Robot would take a battery, but only to light up a light bulb. This one actually uses the battery to run the motor to move it, and to run a buzzer and the eyes. But this one doesn't talk. Robert the Robot talks. So you got all these trade-offs. So the base section that's down inside the robot, here's one of them right here. As you can see, they got a really big old janky motor, huge gear. I mean, look at the size of that puppy. They got a crank that comes off this gearbox, and that's going to run all the way up into the head, and they use that to actually make the head turn back and forth a little. We didn't discuss that. Here's your steering. So basically you would move this tab to move the wheels, and they would stay whichever way you put them to make it go left or go right. As far as running, like I say, it's a 1.5 volt system. So here you can get a view of the tire turning and the crank moving on this side. Obviously it's all metal gears, all metal construction. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this guy. Got the 2 D-cell batteries installed as per the box instruction. Now, part of the electrical contact for this whole metal plate just has 2 little divots here which dig into the battery, so you need to keep those 2 little divots clean. But that just gets the positive side of the battery on this metal plate. This part here that slides is supposed to transfer that power up to here, and this main on-off switch just comes down and drags on that metal to complete a circuit. So basically you've got a lot of metal rubbing on metal connections, not solid connections. And you know when you have it turned on, the eyes will light up. If the eyes aren't lit, then you start fooling around with stuff. Here is the knobs for swinging the arms. This is the knob that should raise the antenna, but the piece of rubber, like I said in there over 70 years ago, is kind of gone old and rotten. But basically it just rubbed on this metal bar and was supposed to lift that up. This is your Morse code button, and we will get it to sound. And there's the Morse code. In case you didn't know it as a kid, you could learn it by looking right on the back of his head. Use your forward and reverse. You can hear it running. Here you can see his head moving too. So you see as it runs along, his head moves back and forth. Let's get a little bit of room up here. There he is. That's the speed that the puppy would run on 1.5 volts. And of course, if you wanted to go in reverse, center is off. If you wanted to go in reverse, you would move it all the way to the other side. Like so. Now, the buzzers almost always need a little bit of adjustment, and I don't have a long enough screwdriver to do that. I'm going to turn this light on the camera, if I can get it to turn on. I'm going to let you stare back in there. That is the buzzer. It's hard to get both the light shining in the right place. There, you can see the coil of the buzzer. I'm going to reach in there with a screwdriver and push on that while I'm holding, so you can see when I push the buzzer button down, the lights go out. That's because the buzzer is sucking up all the power of the batteries. I'm going to go in there and fiddle with the flapper on that buzzer and see if we can get it buzzing. Here we go. Then your lights will be on and you'll hear the buzzing sound. Unfortunately, the only way I can get it to going again is to tap it, because it needs to be adjusted. If you know how buzzers work, it's an electromagnet, that coil I showed you in there, and there's these 2 contacts are an on-off switch, and they're normally touching. And the coil is supposed to suck this one away to open the circuit. And then when the circuit opens, of course, the spring closes it again. And so it just goes back and forth and makes the buzzing sound. But if the metal isn't bent just right, or the magnet isn't strong enough to suck that thing open, it'll just sit there and draw all the current that it can and not buzz. So, there you have it. It's the electric robot, and in this case, the one that we just played with was the electric robot and sun, because there's the sun, and just the standard electric robot version over here. Now you know what makes it go.